Hi guys, Olive here today to do yet another tag I was not tagged to do. This is the Reader Problems tag. It was created by Tiffany from About to Read. I will link her original video down below. This tag is focused on some of the dilemmas that us book lovers can face on a regular basis that non-readers can and do give us some very funny looks about when we start complaining about them, but that doesn't mean they're not still problems. So let's take a look at the questions. Question number 1. You have 20,000 books on your TBR. Accurate. How in the world do you decide what to read next? My reading right now is organized into 3 fairly even sections. There's reading that I've organized ahead of time, meaning books off of lists that I've made for myself or books that I've made a priority at the beginning of the year. Then there are new releases that I'm reading for review, either in a freelance capacity or here on my channel. And then finally, there are seasonal books that I pick up because they remind me of the season that we're currently in. Around the middle of the month, I'll sit down and think about what I want the next month's reading to look like. I'll pull in books from those 3 categories I just mentioned and assemble myself a TBR. And more or less, those are the books that I'll be reading that month. There is some flex involved, but I'm just not the type of person to stand in front of these shelves and scan to try to figure out what I'm going to read next. I'm far too much of a planner for that. Question number 2. You're halfway through a book and you're just not loving it. Do you quit or are you committed? It really depends. If I have a feeling that it'll get better, if I've received advice that it does get better, like from booktube viewers or other booktubers or just bookish people, then I'll try to stick it out. Sometimes I'll page forward a little bit and see if I like what I see and allow that to determine it for me. But if I think it is irredeemable garbage, I will DNF it with reckless abandon, and I might even write something snarky on Goodreads. I'm not above that. Question number 3. The end of the year is coming, and you are so close, yet so far away on your Goodreads reading challenge. Do you try to catch up, and how? Admittedly, I have not had a situation in many years where I've even come close to not meeting my challenge, and that's because as the year goes on, I keep an eye on it. I always want my goal to be something challenging, but not unobtainable. If we're halfway through the year and I feel like for whatever reason that number I set for myself is no longer reasonable, then I'm just going to go ahead and change it to something that is reasonable. I've both raised it and lowered it depending on what I have going on that year, so it's been a long time since I've had to deal with this problem. Question number 4. The covers of a series you love do not match. How do you cope? I don't read very many series, but this did happen with the Amory Ames Cozy Mystery series. You can see the newer ones have the same style, but they're taller, and I don't understand why. It's maddening, but there's really not a whole lot I can do about it. So when I see them, I sigh and shake my head and then try to do my best to let it go. Question number 5. Everyone and their mother loves a book you really don't like. Who do you bond with over shared feelings? Ooh my, okay, well, this is like a weekly occurrence for me by this point because I tend to not like books that get really popular. It's not like I'm trying to be a Debbie Downer. I would much rather love the things that everybody else loves. However, regardless of how popular a book is, there is normally someone, normally at least one person in the comment section of any video in which I talk about that book who shares my gripes. So that's nice at least. Question number 6, you're reading a book and are about to start crying in public. How do you deal? I'm pretty good at controlling that, but if I need to let out a tear or two, I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. I'll let you in on a little secret. It's very likely that if that happens to you, no one's going to notice. And even if they do notice, they probably won't care. People aren't nearly as concerned about you as you think they are. So unless you're about to have a full-blown meltdown in public, it's not a big deal. Question number 7 is a sequel of a book you loved just came out, but you've forgotten a lot from the prior novel. Will you reread the book? Will you skip the sequel? Will you look up a synopsis on Goodreads? Or will you just cry in frustration? Well, if you've ever seen my friend Steve do tags, you'll know that he sometimes has to skip questions because he has all of his weird superpowers and weird things relating to his life that makes him ineligible to answer a question. I'm gonna have to pull a Steve. I try not to bring this up very much because every time I do, it feels like a narcissistic humble brag, even though it's really just a personal attribute, but I have a really good memory, so this is not a problem for me. Question number 8. You don't want anyone borrowing your books. How do you politely tell them nope when they ask? Maybe I'm alone in this, but I don't mind lending out my books to people who I like and who I trust. I've never had any horror stories. I trust that I'll get those books back. And even if I don't, most of my books are used or library book sale copies. So if something does happen to that book, I can just get another used copy. If it happens to be a book that's really special to me for some reason and I don't feel comfortable lending it out, then I'm totally fine just telling that person, hey, that book is special to me. I don't feel comfortable giving it to you. But then I'll offer them something else to borrow instead. Question number 9. You've picked up and put down 5 books in the last month. How do you get over your reading slump? That sounds like me with fiction sometimes, and honestly, I find that the best thing is to switch things up. If literary fiction is the thing that's been getting me down, I'll move to historical fiction, or if it's just fiction in general, then I'll move back to nonfiction. Also, fast-paced books tend to really get me back on track, something I can rip through in like a day or two, like a thriller or a YA novel, something to give me some good momentum. Question number 10. There are so many new books coming out that you are dying to read. How many do you actually buy? This is another one that I feel like I'm not able to answer fully because I do read a lot of new books that come out, but I don't actually buy them. I receive a lot of new books from publishers with the understanding that I'm going to make those books a priority to read and review because I'm a reviewer not just here on BookTube, but I'm also beginning to freelance. And finally, question number 11 is after you've bought the books you can't wait to get to, how long do they sit on your shelf before you actually get to them? It depends on the book, but it probably averages out to be a substantial period of time. I don't keep track of it, and to be completely honest, it's not something that stresses me out. I know other people can really feel the pressure when books have sat on their shelves for a long period of time and they haven't read them. Those same people tend to want to try to get their TBR down to the lowest number possible. But that's not a goal of mine, and I really don't mind them sitting on my shelves. I like having a lot of books in this room. It's my reading room. It should be filled with books, and I only keep books that I know I'm going to read at some point, so I trust that at some point they're going to get read. So I just don't sweat it. So that was my take on the reader problems tag. I know this is a little bit of an older tag. I know a lot of people have already done it. I've seen a lot of people do it, so I will not be tagging anyone by name. But if you've not done this tag and you're interested in doing it, please consider yourself tagged. I'm tagging you. If you have any comments or questions about anything you've seen in this video or about anything in general, please feel free to put that in the comment section below. But if you'd like to find me somewhere other than YouTube, I am on a variety of different places on social media, and the links to all of my profiles will be in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.